Once upon a time, in a land of rich culture and ancient traditions, there was a boy named Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi who would one day become known as Mahatma, the Great Soul. Born on October 2nd, 1869, in Porbandar, India, young Gandhi grew up in a world under the shadow of British rule. India was a land of vast beauty and spiritual depth, yet it was also a place where millions of people suffered under the weight of colonialism, injustice, and oppression. As a child, Gandhi was curious and thoughtful. He questioned the world around him, trying to understand why people were treated unfairly because of their race or caste. Even at a young age, he felt deeply that something was wrong with the way his people were treated by the British and by others who sought to control their lives. Little did he know this sense of justice would shape his life and the future of his entire nation. Gandhi's journey of transformation began when he traveled to London to study law. There he encountered people from many walks of life, and he soon discovered a new way of thinking. But it was in South Africa, where he worked as a young lawyer, that he truly began to understand the power of standing up for what is right. In South Africa, Gandhi faced discrimination because of his skin color, just as many of the Indian people there did. One fateful night, while traveling on a train, Gandhi was thrown off a first-class carriage simply because he was Indian. This humiliating experience sparked a fire within him. He realized that he could not remain silent in the face of injustice. He began organizing peaceful protests, demanding equality for Indian workers and challenging the discriminatory laws. This was just the beginning of what would become his life's mission. Gandhi's philosophy was simple yet powerful: nonviolence, or ahimsa. He believed that true strength came from the ability to resist hatred and violence with love and peace. He also embraced the idea of Satyagraha, the force of truth. He knew that no matter how great the injustice, the truth had the power to set people free. Gandhi understood that change would not come through violence or anger, but through peaceful resistance and the unwavering belief in justice. In 1915, Gandhi returned to India, where the struggle for independence from British rule was growing stronger by the day. He immediately became the leader of the Indian independence movement, urging people to embrace nonviolent civil disobedience. Instead of fighting with weapons, he called upon his fellow countrymen and women to refuse to obey unjust laws, to boycott British goods, and to strike for their rights with dignity. One of his most famous acts of resistance was the Salt March in 1930. The British government had imposed a tax on salt, something that the poor people of India relied on for survival. Gandhi, with a small group of followers, walked over 240 miles to the coastal town of Dandi to make salt from the sea, defying British law. His peaceful protest captured the attention of the world and made it clear that the Indian people would no longer be subjugated by foreign rulers. As Gandhi's movement gained strength, so did the force of his message. He led millions of Indians in nonviolent protests, fasts, and boycotts, all aimed at achieving independence. His example of self-discipline, humility, and courage inspired not just Indians, but people across the globe. Gandhi's teachings showed the world that one person, driven by love and truth, could challenge the greatest powers and bring about change. But Gandhi's mission was not without sacrifice. He was imprisoned multiple times by the British for his activism, yet his spirit never wavered. He always chose peace over violence, even in the face of great adversity. During one of his many fasts, Gandhi's health began to deteriorate, but he persisted, knowing that his sacrifices were for the greater good of the people he loved. On August 15, 1947, after years of struggle, India finally gained independence from British rule. But the victory came with a heavy cost. The country was divided into two nations, India and Pakistan, based on religious differences. Gandhi, heartbroken by the violence that followed, fasted once more, pleading for peace and unity between the two nations. His voice, though filled with compassion, could not prevent the bloodshed. Then on January 30th, 1948, while walking to prayer in New Delhi, Gandhi's life was tragically cut short by an assassin's bullet. His death sent shockwaves across the world, leaving a void that could never truly be filled. But Gandhi's message lived on. His dedication to nonviolence, his commitment to truth, and his belief in the power of love continue to inspire millions to this day. Gandhi's legacy reminds us that even in the face of the darkest oppression, there is always hope. He showed the world that true strength comes from within, that we can change the world not by fighting hatred with hatred, but by fighting it with love, kindness, and an unwavering commitment to truth. As we remember Mahatma Gandhi, we are reminded that one person, armed with nothing but love, can indeed change the world. His dream was not just for India, but for the entire world, a world where peace, justice, and equality reign for all. And his dream lives on in every act of kindness, every effort to resist injustice, and every voice that speaks the truth.